Hey friends, 2 Chronicles chapter 16 is our chapter of the day, and we are learning about the continuing saga of Israel and Judah, life in the divided kingdom. We're watching both of these kingdoms plummet, and sometimes they're plummeting together, sometimes they're plummeting while fighting against each other militarily or politically, and that's really what we see in this one. So Asa, king of Judah, Baasha, king of Israel. Baasha has blockaded Judah in. So Baasha has kind of cut off transportation to and from Judah, so that Asa is in a bit of a political pickle. And what we see in this is we see Asa as king having really good intentions. He knows that he's got a problem that he needs to fix. And that's a good thing. That's what a leader should do. The problem is he used the wrong methods to try to fix it. So instead of seeking God, and we're going to see him rebuked specifically for this, instead of seeking God, he reaches out and robs God and seeks help from worldly allies, sort of. So Asa's blockaded in. He reaches out to Ben-Hadad, the king of Aram. And Aram is essentially Syria. And he reaches out and says, hey, let's make a treaty. Stop working with Israel and start working with me. And what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to send you silver and gold. But not just any silver and gold, the silver and gold from my treasuries, which, as we know, belong to the Lord. So Asa, trying to do a good thing, finds the worst way possible to try to do it. He's going to steal from God, give it to a non-believer king. So transfer the fortunes of God to this non-believer king in order to make this alliance. And in the short term, it works. This king accepts the alliance, accepts the bribe, whatever you would call it, and in the short term, the blockade is broken up. This not only is the blockade broken up, but the materials that were being used to fortify this blockade actually get used by Asa to build up his own country. So we see a situation a lot like we see in our lives, where people have good motives, but then take a wicked path to achieve those good motives. And in the short term, it looks like they've won. It looks like they've succeeded. And that can be really deceptive and really discouraging if we don't have the kind of trust in God that knows that God is going to make things right in the long term. So don't just look at the short term. So what happens as a result of this? This guy named Hanani, maybe that's not how you pronounce it, that's how I'm going to pronounce it, comes to Asa and says, because you have relied on the king of Aram and not on the Lord, the army of the king of Aram has escaped from your hand. That's verse 7. You might think that wasn't even the enemy. He's the ally. Well, what this prophet, the seer, is saying is he's saying, I was going to have you conquer them. The Lord was going to have you conquer Syria. But instead, you've made an alliance with them, and you will never conquer them. You're always going to be under their thumb. So we're starting to see the long-term results. And then there's this great verse in verse 9. For the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to him. Wow, think about that. Just meditate on that and think about where you are and how the eyes of the Lord are looking to bless people that are fully committed to him. Doesn't mean we work to get our salvation. But it means as saved believers, if we are committed to the Lord, he is looking for opportunities to bless us. And we see that so often in our lives. And that's what this is what reminding. That is what we're being reminded of in this passage. So then how does Asa respond? He's angry. He responds like a fool. He's angry when he's rebuked. Throws the guy in prison. And then we hear what happens after that. God further punishes him for rejecting the truth again. Gives him this disease in his feet. And again in verse 12, Asa, even in his illness, does not seek help from the Lord, but only from physicians. So kind of like you see with Saul in his life, you see this repeated cycle with Asa in his life, where he's got a problem. The problem needs to be solved, but he looks to the wrong place to get it solved. So that's the story of Asa. Really, Asa is a microcosm of what's going on in Israel and Judah, because they're still alive, they're still going, they're seeing some short-term ups and downs, but they're looking to the wrong places for their survival and their identity. And it's haunting them over and over and driving them closer and closer to being completely carried away. So that's 2 Chronicles 16. I hope this was useful to everybody, and I pray everybody is being blessed by reading through Scripture together. God bless you all.